Sometimes bad things happen to good people. We don't really know why, it's just kind of a part of life. But too often we become so focused on the things we've lost that we don't take the time to appreciate the things we've actually gained. The subject of today's video experienced two of the most devastating losses a person could imagine, but he made it through the darkness and realized there was more light up ahead. Vince Wilfork was a 350-pound nose tackle who was nimble enough to field punts. Dude had better hands than a lot of DBs and a personality that won over teammates, fans, and even the toughest of coaches. He once saved a woman from a wrecked vehicle and was the sole reason that Mark Sanchez will forever go down in infamy. This is what happened to Vince Wilfork, the jolly giant who drowned his own sadness with constant laughter. They say comedy comes from a dark place, and I don't know, but maybe that explains why Vince Wilfork always seemed to be having the time of his damn life. Without further ado, y'all already know what time it is, man. Cue the Wayne. Alright, before we jump into today's video, a quick word from today's video sponsor, Blinkist. Now, Blinkist is one of my favorite sponsors on the channel due to the nature of what they provide. I feel like they make reading accessible to everybody and really take away every excuse you could have. In a nutshell, Blinkist is an app that condenses over 3,000 nonfiction books into 15-minute summaries. And it's so convenient because it allows you to get the main bullet points and takeaways from a book that would normally take you days or weeks to finish. It also works extremely well as a refresher for books that you've already read in the past. It really helps keep the ideas and some of the things you learned fresh in your mind. So if you want to check it out, man, the first 100 people to go to Blinkist.com/FlemLo are going to get a full week of free access. From there, if you decide you want to become a full member, you'll get 25% off the membership fee. But keep in mind, the code is going to give you a 7-day free trial completely free, and you can cancel anytime during that week. Two books I'd recommend to get you started will be Principles by Ray Dalio and The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Shout out to Blinkist once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, let's get it. To understand the heart of Vince Wilfork, we have to first discuss the man that raised him, Vince's dad, David Wilfork. David was a 285-pound man who passed on some superior genetics to both of his sons. Vince was able to grow up in a two-parent, stable, loving home out in Boynton Beach, Florida. When Vince was 4 years old, his dad flat out told him he believed he'd play in the NFL one day. Fast forward a few years and Dad's prediction seemed to be coming true. Already at 6'1", 310 pounds, Vince was dominating at the high school level. The combination of his size, strength, and athleticism was honestly kind of not even fair. Yo, imagine your coach calling a dive or a power or any inside run against this team. It's like, bro, why do you hate me, coach? Vince was also a beast on the wrestling mat and still holds the high school shot put record in the state of Florida. But while Vince's dad's predictions seemed to be coming to fruition, unfortunately, Mr. David Wilfork wouldn't be there to see the whole thing come true. Vince's dad struggled from kidney failure, diabetes, and several other ailments that saw a 285-pound man shrink all the way down to 145. He lost a total of over 150 pounds and struggled for years fighting against these ailments. But as long as he was around, he managed to never miss a single game that any of his kids played. Vince would eventually earn a scholarship to the University of Miami, but as his dad was literally fighting for his life, Vince's concentration slipped. He failed to attain eligibility after signing in Miami and ended up staying home supposedly to prep and retake his college entry exams. Truth is, he really spent the time looking after his father. During that time, Vince fell into a bit of a depression. He gained an additional 70 pounds, ballooning all the way up to 380. This was around the time where he started hearing rumors that he'd never be anything past high school. Just a big guy out there taking advantage of people who he had a size advantage against. And it's funny how things go because this is something that probably wouldn't have even bothered Vince under normal circumstances. But because he was already dealing with this thing with his dad, he already kind of had a chink in his armor at this time. He wasn't at full strength. So unfortunately, the haters and doubters were able to kind of penetrate Vince's defenses and get under his skin a little bit. But Vince had a really strong support system. His parents, mom and dad, solid. So even with his dad going through all of that, they were able to get through to their son saying over and over and over, prove them wrong, make liars out of everybody that's talking crazy. And Vince would go on to do just that. His freshman season at Miami was in 2001. Coming off the bench at defensive tackle, the freshman still managed to finish 10th on the entire team with his 41 tackles that season. He also recorded a sack and 3 forced fumbles. Now look, a lot of y'all probably know this, but that 2001 Miami team was stacked, bro. Like, that was a college football super team, straight up. On offense, Clinton Portis was the starting running back. His backups, Willis McGahee and Frank Gore. They had Andre Johnson and Jeremy Shockey, and Shockey was backed up by Kellen Winslow Jr. On defense, they had Phillip Buchanan, Jonathan Vilma, Antrell Roll, Ed Reed, and a true freshman, Sean Taylor. The reason Vince didn't start was because they had 3 other defensive linemen who were all upperclassmen, and every single one of those dudes went to the NFL. Needless to say, this OP team won the national championship and Vince got his ring. Now the following year, Vince's dad tragically lost his hearing and his eyesight. Things were progressively getting worse. And when it finally came down to the last hour, Vince slipped his championship ring onto his dad's finger, and it was finally time to say goodbye. As you can imagine, Vince was distraught when his dad passed, but when it came time for the funeral, his teammates pulled up in droves, and that's when he kind of realized, you know what? I'm not alone, I still got my brothers on the team. Vince still didn't start as a sophomore, but he pretty much played starters minutes. He improved his overall numbers pretty drastically in the sack department, going from 1 sack the previous year all the way up to 7 sacks as a sophomore. Vince was back and better than ever, but soon, dude was about to be hit with yet another blow. And this was the knockout shot. A few days before Miami was set to take on Tennessee during the 2002 season, Vince's mom suffered a stroke. Having already lost one parent only a few months earlier, dude rushed to the house to be with his mom. And while nothing can take away that fear and pain, Vince's new extended family would help ease things just a little bit. After they smashed Tennessee without one of their big D tackles on the field, Vince's coach picks up the phone and calls Vince at the hospital to check on him and see how his mom is doing. And Vince said he talked to every single player on the team, you know what I'm saying? So that was a pretty close-knit group, and that was just kind of a dope scene to see. That's one of those football moments that a lot of people that don't really understand like what a locker room is like they don't really understand that side of it, but that was dope, man. A few days later, Vince's mom seemed to be recovering well, and she was actually scheduled to go back home and start therapy within the next few days. So at that point, she went ahead and sent Vince back to school. Now, Vince's brother, David Jr., was still at the hospital, but not long after Vince left, she also sent David Jr. home to get ready to go to work. Told him, "Oh, you don't need to miss work. I'm okay, I'm good." But shortly after the two sons left, complications happened and she tragically passed away right there in the hospital, man. And just like that, in only about a 6-month period, Vince had lost both of his parents. His dad was only 48, his mom only 46. Vince sank back into a depression for a couple of weeks and seemed as if he wasn't going to make it to the Fiesta Bowl. But during his time alone, he finally came to an epiphany. His teammates had become a part of his extended family. He still had them here, so he didn't want to let them down. Vince suited up, but Miami would go on to lose that game. Vince's first loss of his entire college career. Vince came back for his junior season and finished with a career-high 64 tackles and 20 QB hurries. But scouts didn't love what they saw on film, feeling he played lackadaisical that last year and was basically playing to not get hurt. So that perception caused him to go from the first-ranked defensive lineman to the second-ranked defensive lineman. He was so cold, he only dropped 1 spot. But still, this is one of those moments that supports my theory. There is little to no upside in returning to school. Once you good, go. Because even subconsciously, once you put yourself in that position, yeah, you might play a little bit to not get hurt. Obviously, you don't want to ruin your opportunity to go to the league, especially when you could have went the previous year. Now, again, I understand that Vince was a junior, but you got to remember, he missed that first year because he was ineligible. All you got to do is be out of high school for 3 years. So after his sophomore year, he could have went to the league then. But you know what? Life kind of has a way of working these things out, and we just kind of are where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be. Like, if you believe in destiny and that type of thing. I do. Because Vince fell down the board a little bit, he ended up being drafted 21st overall by the New England Patriots, and he basically played his entire career there. And honestly, for Vince, I don't think there's a better spot he could have landed. Vince's rookie season in the NFL in many ways paralleled his freshman year in Miami. He shared the nose tackle position with a player who had been there longer, meaning he didn't start every game. But he still put up an eerily familiar 42 tackles and 2 sacks during that season. On top of that, his team once again made it to the championship game, and Vince ended up starting in Super Bowl 39. So as a freshman in college, he became a national champion. And as a rookie in the NFL, he became a Super Bowl champion. Crazy, right? Vince wouldn't make his first Pro Bowl until 2007, but would end up making a total of 5 Pro Bowls by the time it was all said and done. He made a total of 3 second-team All-Pros, and in 2012, he got his lone first-team All-Pro honor. But accolades aside, Vince Wilfork was somewhat of an urban legend in the NFL. On top of being as accomplished as he was, this man had moments that will forever be stitched into the NFL fabric, things that a lot of people will never forget for as long as we live. He created the infamous butt fumble when he absolutely leveled New York Jets guard Brandon Moore. And while some players focus on getting around blockers, Vince ain't have time for all that. He just picked up the guard and used him. Sanchez fumbled the ball, and now this play is taking on a life of its own. It's even got its own Wikipedia page. Funny enough, that's not even the only time he used that tactic and created a fumble, but that particular version of it was the one that went down in history. Speaking of moments, this dude's time on Hard Knocks was easily one of the most memorable appearances. I remember he came in with the overalls and a cowboy hat, man, that was crazy. Then I remember he was hooping and he was talking smack, and his wife was talking smack too. Like, they was perfectly in sync with the trash talk, you know what I'm saying? It was fire, bro. Vince played nose tackle for most of his career, but his athleticism and coordination was on a completely different level for most guys of his size. And in 2011, when the Patriots switched to a 4-3 defense, Vince was then allowed a little bit more flexibility. At 350 pounds, this man was dropping back into coverage a couple times a game and actually caught the first 2 interceptions of his career in that same season. He even led the team in picks for a couple of weeks. And the picks weren't impressive, but he didn't just body catch him and clumsily fall to the ground. Nah, he snagged the ball like a damn receiver and immediately took off upfield. Still forming cats, actually carrying the ball correctly, knowing when to cover it up. This dude was different, man. And I know it's not practical, but I definitely wish we could have seen a little bit more of this type of stuff throughout his career. Do you know how big a boost that is to the defense when a damn D tackle catch a pick and then turn that thing upfield? I mean, for a second it even looked like he was gone, but I mean, you know, the man 350 pounds, so yeah, Vince Wilfork did it all in the National Football League. But the fact that his parents weren't there to witness any of it was something that obviously hurt him deep down. Here's a quote. They didn't get a chance to see their son live out a dream. Physically, that hurt every day, by the hour, daily. Not a minute goes by. But I know, at the end of the day, they had the best seat in the house. Thank you, David and Barbara Wilfork. Vince developed a close relationship with Patriots owner Robert Kraft, and when Kraft's wife Myra was diagnosed with a terminal illness, Vince gave him a pendant to wear around his neck. The pendant contained a wedding photo of Robert Kraft and his wife, and it was identical to a pendant that Vince wore himself with a similar picture of his parents. Robert Kraft actually wore it every day while his wife fought the illness. And after Mrs. Kraft passed, the Kraft family took an extended vacation to Florence, Italy, and they ended up inviting Vince and his wife Bianca to join them. When Robert Kraft was asked if he ever invited another player on a vacation with him, here's what he had to say. No, I haven't. Everyone would think I'd invite Tom Brady, but nah. The 2013 and 14 seasons were the first in Vince's career where he didn't record a single sack, partially due to the fact that his 2013 season was cut short due to an Achilles tear, and then in 2014 he was playing but still kind of trying to recover from that. But on the business side of it, this is kind of where that Robert Kraft love comes in super handy. Here you have a 350-pound man going into his 10th season in the NFL, okay? He's coming off a whole Achilles tear, and they signed him to a 3-year deal worth $22 million. And only like $3 million of that was guaranteed with a $7.5 million salary per year. But Vince had already kind of started to decline physically, as you'd expect, before the injury. So even to get that type of deal at that point in his career, you know, that's pretty damn clutch, man. It's a quick $10 million. Like, let me get that, you know? Vince was on a mission to end his Patriots career the same way he started it. It had been 10 long years since Super Bowl 39, and Vince remembered being a young, naive rookie thinking he'd rack up Super Bowl after Super Bowl. His 10 years in the league had nurtured a deep love for the game, but his experiences with tragedies and triumphs during that time had nurtured a deep love for life itself. In January of 2015, Vince and the Patriots beat the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, punching their ticket to Super Bowl 49. Vince was locked in. This was his last chance to go get that final Super Bowl ring. But following that AFC Championship game, Vince and his wife were driving home that night and they happened to see a car flipped over on the side of the highway. Without thinking, Vince hopped out and rushed over to the vehicle. Here's his account of what happened. "I saw the lady in there. I asked her if she was okay. Can she move? Can she grab my hand? I actually opened up the door and pulled her out. It wasn't a big deal. I was just seeing somebody that needed help and helping them." Spectators were amazed that he only needed one hand to pull her out, which, it makes sense if you think about it, but I know it had to be pretty jarring to see. Vince continued, "Through football and the course of life, I learned just to try and stay poised in certain situations. I'm pretty sure she was kind of scared, so the last thing I wanted to do was have her panic. So that's the first thing I told her. Don't panic. I'll get you out of here." And this is kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, because Vince is just genuinely a good dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just a cool cat. Dude was literally out here saving lives, bro. Then only a couple of weeks later, he took off his Superman cape and threw on the pads for one last hurrah. He was now playing in Super Bowl 49, and his career had come full circle. The Patriots went on to win the game, and Vince went out the same way he'd come in 10 years earlier. It's pretty wild to think in your first year with the Patriots, you won Super Bowl 39, and in your last year with the Patriots, you won Super Bowl 49. That's pretty damn cool. But be that as it may, Vince's production had consistently gone down over the years. So during that offseason, the Patriots decided it was time to move on. Vince ended up going to the Texans to get a quick retirement bag on the way out. He wasn't the same guy. His father time and injuries had begun to set in, and he ironically lost the final game of his career in the playoffs against his old team. So, that kind of sucks, but whatever, it is what it is. After his 2-year bid with the Texans was over, Vince decided to sign a one-day contract with New England to retire a Patriot, and let's be real, that's just the way it should have been from the jump. Today, Vince lives in Houston with his wife, Bianca. Yeah, same one he met in college. They got their 3 kids and they just been enjoying life, man. Big Vince is a simple man. He like to hop on the grill, and he seemed like the type of cat that makes some good ass ribs, you know what I'm saying? He also liked to go fishing and other normal country boy type of stuff. Vince Wilfork was never ashamed of his size. Dude was a menace on the field, but was a funny, charismatic, playful, helpful guy off of it. He made plays and memories in the NFL for over 10 years, but when it was time to retire, he stepped away gracefully. Instead of allowing the tragedies of life to break him down, he allowed those tragedies to fuel him. He took his anger out on opponents within the rules of the game and made millions while doing it. Too many people allow circumstances to happen to them. They get hit by something and then fold up into a ball. And I know it hurt, but you gotta get back up and keep swinging. You got more life to live, more love to give, and more goals to accomplish. The ironies of life are funny sometimes. When Vince was in college, he lost the 2 main staples of his family. But during that same time period, he met a young lady who would become his future wife. And only 2 months after his mom passed, his first daughter was born. Vince Wilfork had to live through 2 of the worst tragedies a person could imagine. But he didn't allow those massive losses that he suffered to blind him from the new gifts that he had attained. His old life was taken from him way too soon, but he didn't let that stop him from growing up and making a whole new one.